Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, November the 1st already. Yes. 305th day of the year. There's 60 days left in 2022. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. Well, Alabama Boys was a hit, a smash, transformative for some, therapeutic for others. The answer to the most asked question of me since the show is the answer is I don't know. The question, will we perform it again? It's flattering that those who did not get a chance to see it now want to, based on the reviews of their friends, neighbors, and others. So we'll see. But thank you for the positives. Thank you for all the love. Whereas Michael O'Neal and I were the people out front, and Michael O'Neal was great, as Tony the Tiger would say. There were so many others who made this production successful. Walt and Ginger Woltels were our producers. And Walt also starred as a Hollywood film agent. First of all, Walt and Ginger are a formidable team. It would not have happened without them. And then there's that incredible team at the Goose Performing Arts Center. Wow, they are special. If we perform it somewhere else, the team working the show will have to go some to even be in the ballpark as the Googe team. These folks are winners. If we were talking baseball, they would be Barry Bonds, not just hitting home runs, but hitting it out into the water. Also, let me thank the audiences. We had nearly full houses both nights. They were lively, engaged audiences, and that made it an extra special treat. So thanks again. Will we do it again? We'll see. Okay, our G-list guest today is Tony Sands. Tony Sands is Executive Director of Coaching and D1 Training in Deerfield Beach, Florida. He was a standout three-sport athlete at nationally acclaimed St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale, after which he earned a Division I football scholarship to the University of Kansas. Check this. He became one of the greatest running backs in college football, setting two NCAA records, one for most carries, 58 carries in one game. Now that's amazing. And most yards, 396 yards in a single game. But that was just a bite of the apple. He has trained many, many athletes, and he is also an author. We look forward to having that conversation with Tony. This edition of Tuesday with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Girl creates the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable and introduce Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. And so there is just a lot that we could talk about this morning. So let me just start with you, Barbara. How are you this morning, first of all?
Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well, thank you. And how are you today?
I am doing well as well. So let's if we can just get Michael on here, we'll all three be on here together, and I'll just throw some things out at you guys, and we'll see how you respond.
Okay.
Morning, Michael.
Good morning, TG. Good morning, Barbara.
Morning, sir.
Okay, so Barbara, I'll start with you. What's on your radar?
Well, Thom, I'm still recovering from the Magic City Classic activities, but before that, I attended Alabama Boys on opening night. They went in on Wednesday in Auburn, Alabama, and I want to say congratulations to you and Michael and Walt and Ginger for a wonderful, wonderful performance. Many of my friends and family had an opportunity to attend as well, and I mean, everyone just gives you all the highest accolades. It was just phenomenal. So congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. It was a lot of fun, and we appreciate the audiences. We had great audiences. When you come out and the first thing you say, which was kind of meant to be a joke, but
Hmm.
and everybody just starts laughing, and you say, "All right, this is going to be a good crowd.
Yes.
They're into it."
Yes.
So yeah. So Michael, how are you, man?
I am doing well, TG, and I'd like to add my sentiments exactly. I had the opportunity to view the play on Thursday night, and I thought it was great. One of my colleagues on the College Board of Liberal Arts Dean's Advisory Committee, told me that it touched all emotional points,
Hmm.
and it
Okay.
certainly did.
It
So
did.
it hit every point there was as far as an emotion, and I like the way that you um, did the history of Alabama and some of the little known facts about Alabama
Yes.
on the positive side, so to
Yeah.
speak. So
What about the all water mail route?
yeah,
That was very
I knew about
interesting.
that one from
I
you
did know
earlier.
that.
So when I saw that, I said, yeah, that was Tom's input in that one.
Yes.
And the guy never gets out of the boat.
Never
And
gets
when
out of the
when you
boat.
Google it, they got a little photo of it. Him in the
Yes.
boat, putting the mail in the mailboxes, in Magnolia Springs, Alabama.
So
So
when they have FedEx or UPS, do they deliver by boat?
good question.
That is a
Probably
good
give it to the
question.
postman. But it's a 39-mile route. So
Wow.
that's whoever it is, they earn their money that day.
Mhm.
So you know. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the world. We got a lot of politics going on, but we got
Yes.
some stuff going on at our alma mater, and the coach is out, and the Cadillac is in.
The Cadillac is
Uh,
in.
Cadillac is in the garage.
The Cadillac is
So
making history at Auburn,
what do we
Alabama.
what do we think? First of all, about Harson being let go.
Well, I'll just say I think it was probably 3 weeks too late, but it's been done. I would have pulled the
Mhm.
trigger earlier on him. Actually, he lost me not only after the Penn State game, but in particularly in the LSU game when you're at home, you're up 17-0,
Yeah.
and you lose that game at home. That's just ridiculous. And the plays that he called. So I knew then that he was on a short leash, but I would have been done at that moment.
Yeah, Michael, something you mentioned earlier when we were having discussion about the games that, I've been wondering, it's like the teams come out and play okay first half. They're sort of hanging with whoever their competition is in the first half. In the second half, it just like everything just falls apart and the other team runs away with the game.
Yes.
So you mentioned that the other team goes and makes adjustments at halftime. Our team normally does not, and that's the big difference. And so he just wasn't able to make those type of adjustments and those type of decisions. And I'm like you all. I'm surprised he lasted this long this season.
Well, part of a coach's job, and Tom knows this as well as I do, is that you have to be able to make in-game adjustments
Hmm.
because everybody has a plan. Like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth. You know, so
Right, right.
Auburn goes out there with their plan based on film study and all this and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And normally coaches have their first 10, 20 plays scripted, and we're
Right.
going to do this, do this. Well, so then that's why we are close in the first half. But at
Hmm.
halftime, the other team goes in and say, okay, we're going to make an adjustment here, here, here. When they line up like this, we're going to do this and what have you. Harsin comes back out. They continue with the same thing.
Same plays.
Right. And
Right.
then
Well,
they don't work.
it's interesting that the opening drive, if I can remember correctly, of every game, we look like gangbusters. The
Absolutely.
opening drive, man. But they drive it down there, and then they get to the 20, and it's like, okay, that's close enough. We'll just kick a field goal. and, and I
Yeah.
don't know. It just wasn't a good match from the start, and
No.
it's unfortunate. So tell me about this buyout. How much is he getting?
Oh my gosh.
He's
This
owed
man's getting what,
about
15?
15 million or so, and he
Jeez.
gets 30. I mean, get half of it within 30 days, and then the rest out over time. And it's
4
not
installments and something over. How many years is that, Michael? Do you know?
how many years.
The installment, because he gets half within 30 days, and the other half is paid in 4 installments over a certain time period.
Yes, I'm not sure how many years, probably 5 years or something like that.
Okay.
But the thing about that, the key part is that it's not offset if he goes and get another job.
Hmm.
So
Who signs that type of contract?
Auburn.
Man. Wow.
Gus had the same type of contract. Gus is still getting money from Auburn, and he's coaching down at
Central
UCF.
Florida.
I think Chiswick's still getting money.
Are you
I
serious?
don't know if Tuberville is still getting money. I hope not. But
Wow.
yeah, hey, well, so I'm sure Harsin had his lot picked out up there at the lake, because they all got lake houses up
Yes.
there. And
Yes.
you know, it's kind of the way we roll at Auburn. Last coach at Auburn University to not get fired was Coach Ralph Shug Jordan in 1977, I think is when he
Wow.
was. Everybody else has
amazing.
been let go, and this guy probably shouldn't have been hired. I don't know. There was confusion. There's always confusion, it seems,
Yes.
in athletics as
Yes.
to who's going to do what, who's pulling the strings, and so.
Right. But, we do have a new athletic director now. Don't know much about him. Cohen is coming from Mississippi State.
Uh-huh.
So I assume he will be making, at least have some input. I don't know if he'll be the final decision maker, but on hiring the new coach. So that will be interesting.
Well, it's funny. I heard somebody say at least he'll be sitting at the head of the table, unlike the other AD that was not.
Right.
Yeah. I have a question I'll put to you, Thom, and to you, Barbara. Who's on your short list to be the next coach at Auburn?
I have no idea, man.
You want to know who I want to be on the short list? I'm hoping Deion Sanders is going to have an opportunity, Michael. You keep hearing he doesn't have major college coaching experience, but you have to start somewhere. The man has been successful at everything he's ever done, so I would hope that he will be given a fair opportunity. And I keep hearing Lane Kiffin's name, and I don't know if he'll want to leave Ole Miss or not, but there's several names are being thrown around out there.
Yeah.
Well, and I saw the list of names that they came up. The guy up there at where's that?
Liberty.
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze.
Hugh Freeze.
They mentioned him, and I guess they're still mad at him because he liked women, and
Right.
and so I don't know about Lane. I don't know, and I saw the 60 Minutes program with Deion. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did.
And I had always, I reflected back on Deion as the football player, the baseball player, the guy who made a lot of loud noise and kind of carried on, so on and so forth.
Right.
But I can honestly tell you, I totally have a new opinion of him based on 60 Minutes.
Yes.
And, what he's done over at Jackson State, what he's doing for the Southwest Conference.
Right.
He went out and beat Nick Saban on that #1 recruit in the country.
Right.
And we need somebody who's going to stand up to Nick Saban.
Yes.
And we need somebody who can recruit. Recruiting is national now. And we need somebody that can, so I don't understand the whole hire of Coach Harsin, because he wasn't a national recruiter.
Not at all.
He wasn't even recruiting the kind of players that play in the SEC.
Right.
So I don't understand that, but you know, that's that whole tenure is now gone from the president Leith,
Hmm.
the athletic director Alan Green, and now the coach Harsin. And I hope he takes that offensive coach with him because the offense was horrible.
Yeah, there was some rumors yesterday that some of the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator had all planned to leave with Harsin. So
Well,
again,
they've been fired, I think.
They were
okay,
fired.
they were fired.
Everyone was
Okay,
everyone was fired except for Schmetting, who is the
okay,
DC. He's
Well,
the
okay.
only one with ties to Harsin that remained.
I
when
see.
you get
Okay,
fired, you may as well make up your mind to leave because you're getting fired.
right.
So,
I was trying to find confirmation that they'd been fired and they'd actually left. I never did see it. So yeah, I
Yeah,
just
what do you guys
saw.
think about the Cadillac?
I love it.
yeah.
I love the fact that he was named interim coach, made history at Auburn University, and I think he's one of the best recruiters they have right now. He and Zach Etheridge are great recruiters. So I'm hoping whoever the new coach is will certainly retain them as part of the
Oh, I
staff.
think he'll be there.
Yeah,
Good, very
I
good.
will agree with you on Cadillac being probably the number one recruiter we have on staff now, especially when you're looking at running backs because he has a reputation and a history in the league. And Zach Etheridge has done very well with DBs. Also, Ike Hilliard, who is
Yes,
our wide receiver coach,
right,
who
right.
played at Florida, played in the NFL. So we need some of those big name players. And I'd just like to comment on those who are saying that Dion doesn't have any SEC or Power Five coaching experience. Right now, what Auburn needs, and Thom alluded to this, is somebody that can go in there and get these recruits. We're
Yes.
stuck between Alabama and Georgia. They're going to
Hmm.
get every 4 and 5 star out there. They
Right,
very seldom even talk to 3-star recruits. But we
right.
need somebody like Dion that can go in there and be a closer and get
Yes,
those players at Auburn. You
yes,
Auburn has enough resources to go and get the D coordinators, the offensive coordinators, and the people that can implement that. But we need somebody at the top that can offset Kirby and Nick Saban.
Nick Saban.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, let me say, um, based on his current job, I'm certainly not a fan of his. But Tuberville would recruit 3 stars and they would coach him up. And
Right.
remember, they would go and get those
Yes.
kids, and they would have been defensive linemen
Hmm.
in high
High
school or
school.
whatever,
Right.
and they would put them on that rush in.
Yes.
And man, those guys would be out. They'd put 20-some pounds on them or whatever.
Hmm.
So I just hadn't seen a lot of coaching up, uh, coaching guys to play above their head,
Right.
you know. And I think you can do that. I do think you. I can remember, you know, that game last Saturday. I think was the worst I'd ever seen an Auburn team play,
Yeah.
and they had no chance to win the game. There was no hope that they were going to win the game. And people started leaving at the end of the third quarter because they didn't have any hope. You know how
Right.
you could leave a game and say, "Oh, well, I'll listen to it on the radio because
Right.
maybe we'll."
Right.
Nobody listened to it on the radio because there
No.
was no chance. I mean,
And
we hadn't had any spark. When are we going to ever start coaching quarterbacks? My
right.
God, this
Right.
kid's got a lot of talent,
Hmm.
but he needs to be coached
Right.
on how to quarterback. And I'm just, yeah, it was really, it's probably the most disappointed I've ever been watching an Auburn football game.
And I didn't watch the whole game. I just was stepping in and out of the every now and then. But when I did, I mean, players were just laying down. People just running by them, and they were just falling down. I mean, it wasn't like they were trying to tackle. They wasn't in a hurry to
They
jump,
can't
get
tackle.
up.
They don't know
Wow,
how to tackle.
wow, that's
Jesus,
sad.
man, I've never seen
That's
anything
sad.
like. I've never seen so many missed tackles in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Emily asked the question, who's on my short list? and I'll respond and say, Emily, I would prefer to have Deion number 1. I'd say Lane Kiffin 2 and Hugh Freeze 3rd. Those are my top 3 candidates. I think that with either of those guys, we can win. And we already know what Lane Kiffin has been able to do as a play caller, offensive coordinator at Alabama and then FAU, and now what he's done at Ole Miss. We know that Hugh Freeze knows how to win and can recruit. And we do know that Deion knows how to win. And let me say something about Deion. For all these people talking about his lack of experience, Deion is in the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
okay?
Absolutely.
All right. He's in the Hall of Fame, people.
Yes.
And he won a world championship with the 49ers and with the Cowboys. He won one year with the 49ers and then went to the Dallas Cowboys and won one the next year.
Right.
So
didn't he win baseball too? Didn't they win the World Series? Was he with the Braves when they
he
won?
was with the Braves. I don't think they won a World Series with the Braves, but he did play in the same season with them too. So this guy knows some X's and O's for sure.
He does.
And just because you haven't had the opportunity to coach as a Power 5 coach doesn't mean you can't coach as a Power 5.
Well, and I don't even know who's on his staff. So obviously he's got some good coaches on his staff because they're playing. The SWAC's not a pushover league.
Not at all.
And,
not at all.
So,
and we talk about recruiting and how important that is. And the 3 that you've mentioned, Michael, those would definitely be the top of my list. But I think Deion could out recruit any of those guys. And as we mentioned, we need someone that's going to compete with Saban and Kirby Smart as far as recruiting is concerned. And I think he's the only one that can actually do that. Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze, I think, will lose a recruiting battle with Saban and Kirby Smart any day.
Well, part of the reason for Kirby's success, he has a guy named Dale McGee that played at Auburn, who is Kirby's right-hand man. And whenever Kirby's not there, he turns over all the coaching details to Dale McGee. Dale McGee is the one that's been locking down all those recruits. So we got to fight fire with fire, to your point.
I was going to say, we talk about, who's on that list. I want to add Dale McGee to that list of people I think that would do an excellent job as head coach at Auburn. His name has come up a couple of times, and I don't think anyone's really given him any serious consideration, but I would love to see his name added to that list. I think he would be great head coach.
When you say you don't think anybody's given him serious consideration, tell me what that's based on.
Just based on what I'm hearing and reading, Thom.
Okay, but that didn't give me much of an answer to the question. What are you reading and hearing?
Well, I'm just saying people are saying that he might be a good coach, but they don't think he will even be considered for the job for whatever reason. No one's saying why, other than he doesn't have any head coaching experience. Well, again, they have to start somewhere.
Was Kirby a head coach before he went to Georgia?
I don't think so. No,
he was not.
But I guarantee you put me at head coach at Georgia with all them damn players they got over there, and I
win. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Come on
exactly.
now.
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I think he should definitely.
Let's not remember, and Vince Dooley, who is an Auburn grad and started his career, played quarterback at Auburn. Unfortunately, he passed away this past Friday at the age of 90, and we did recognize him with a moments of silence at Auburn during the football game. But he became the head coach at Georgia, I think, at the age of 35. Wow. He had been an assistant coach at Auburn. And until Kirby, he was the only one that brought them a national championship.
Right.
So, that just goes back to my point. Because somebody's never done something at one level doesn't mean they can't. They just never had the opportunity.
Got to get the opportunity. That's right. So that's right. All right. Well, let's see. We got anything else?
The only other thing I like to add is that it is open enrollment and annual enrollment for Medicare and people that are on Medicare. And there are a couple things that have come up. People that have diabetes, they have put a cap on drugs. Insulin will only cost $35 starting in January. And that's going to be a godsend to a lot of people.
Yes.
And they're going to shorten the time frame so that people, when they become eligible for Medicare, they can enroll the very next month. So there are a lot of things coming down the pipeline that's going to make it enhance beneficiaries' opportunity to get the coverage that they need.
All right.
Okay. Barbara, you got anything
Tom, I
else?
do have one other thing I wanted to mention. With the elections coming up next week, right now the Alabama Constitution still contains language allowing involuntary servitude as the punishment for crime. It supports poll taxes, requiring segregated schools, and prohibiting interracial marriage. These provisions have been negated but remain prominent in the document that purports to express Alabama values. So voters will have a chance to address those things in a by ratifying the amendment to the not by ratifying the amendment to the Constitution, but voting on next Tuesday. So I want all of our Alabama residents to be aware of that.
Okay. Yeah, I thought they did away with the black-white marriage thing.
Yeah, it's still part of the Constitution.
Okay. We'll
Alabama.
a woman's got the gun in her purse, so what more can you expect?
I know.
Okay, anything else?
No, sir.
We're gonna get on with it then. Okay, well, let's go to Sean. She's got a minute for it. Sean, good morning. And what you got on Got a Minute?
Good morning. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Hello to everyone joining in with us this morning. I hope you all are well and remaining safe. It's the first day of November, a month of festivals, celebrations, and a change of wardrobe, depending on where you're located. November is without a doubt the month for hopeless romantics, since it is also the time when red roses bloom along with chrysanthemums and tulips. Also, Himalayan states and northeastern states yield cherry blossoms in abundance during this time. It is said to be one of the most magical bloomings one could ever witness. Fancy buying a fresh bouquet of flowers for your loved one? Well, November is the time to hand out those flowers, some chocolates, and a handwritten letter along with your heart. To me, November is about being hopeful for new beginnings. It's cheerful, it's colorful, and certainly very, very romantic. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
All right. Well, Sean's talking about all this romance and stuff. We might have to check up on it and see if she's romancing with
Yeah,
somebody
she
or
needs to tell us
something.
what's going on.
And I know that she is Shantia Jones today.
Shantia, yeah, she's no longer
Yes,
Sean. She's even changed her name.
yeah. All right.
All
Well, we
formal on us.
appreciate it. And Sean made the trip from South Florida up to Auburn for the play. She and
Yes.
her mom and her son, and I think they had a good time. And we appreciate them doing that. And I've met her mom before, so that's always a pleasure. And it's always fun to meet little Kai. Little Kai
Kai.
had a great time up there.
And as I shared with Sean, Kai gives the best hugs in the world. So if anybody ever meets Kai, they're gonna get the best hug ever.
Okay, well we'll find out about that romance after with Sean. Anyway, so let's go to the G list. Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. And our G list guest today is Tony Sands, and he's an author, which we'll find out about shortly. He's also former football player. He was a 4-year Letterman, All County, and Super 11 and All State in Florida. He set 2 NCAA records. Now, this is phenomenal to me. The most carries in a ball game, 58 carries in a ball game, and the most yards, 396 in a single game. Man, that's amazing. I don't think I need to say anything more to introduce him. I think we just need to probably get to him and see what we got. So, Mr. Sands, are you there?
Yes, I am. How you guys doing?
We're doing
Doing
great.
great.
How are you, man?
It's great, man. First of all, I thank you guys for having me on and giving me opportunity to speak. Anytime I get a chance to speak, I always it's a pleasure. I love speaking. I travel all around the country speaking. So, listen, I'm enjoying this morning.
So I want to get to the book, but I just got to say this. Man, I don't know how long ago it was when you did 58 carries and 396 yards, but are you still tired?
That was what, 1991?
Yes,
That was hell.
1991, and it's crazy how that played out. The week before, we were playing Nebraska the week before. So back in the Big 8, which is the Big 12 now, as I tell people all the time, we were the SEC of now. The Big 8 was the conference that were putting out the national championships, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Colorado. We were always in that national championship hunt. So we were playing Nebraska the week before, and I, as a running back, you tend to watch other running backs play. So I got a chance to see Calvin Jones, and he's rushing. You know, most I had ever put up was like 200 and 222. That's against K-State. And here I am. I'm sitting on the sideline. Calvin Jones is running up and down the field. He's running. He ran for 285 yards against our defense. So I'm sitting on the sideline, and I'm saying to myself, man, I would love to have a day like that. I would love to have a day like that, not knowing the next week what I prayed for did come true.
Wow.
We went out, we had a meeting that night, and this is when you when you look back at it, you say, okay, it led up to it. It was a special time. The night before, I was a senior. All the seniors normally get up and speak. So what Coach did, he brought me up first, and I spoke about my journey to get to the University of Kansas, how they treated my family, because my family was up there. I had a son before I left and went to Kansas, and then I had a son while I was at Kansas, and I got married while I was at Kansas. So my family moved up, and I spoke about how the University of Kansas made my family feel at home and what that meant to me, from all the players that became brothers, you know, and uncles to my children and brothers to my wife. And, you know, it was special that you don't see in normal places when that take place, and spoke about what my team meant to me, what my coaches meant to me, what this journey meant to me. And after I spoke, Coach cut it off. He said, okay, listen, let's cut this off. We're going to end on that. We're not going to go any further. That's what we're going into tomorrow's game with. Let's go. Okay. Everybody went crazy. We went, slept. I thought about the week before. I dreamed about it. I said, listen, man, this is my last game. If I can go out here with the bang. And not only that, Kansas hadn't won in 10 years prior to me coming to the University of Kansas in 88. So we kept inching closer and closer to what we call a win. Now, this game, if we win this game, we become winners, because now we're 6-5. Okay. So in this game, as we're going, John Jefferson, who was a great receiver for the San Diego Chargers.
I remember him.
He was one of the he was the receiver coach at the time. And at halftime, not knowing at halftime, because my coach, Coach Mason, was not ever big on records and things like that. You know, you do your job. That's what you're there for. Okay, blue collar type guy. You don't get into a lot of that. So at halftime, he came up to me, John Jefferson, hey, man, you know, you got about 125 yards on 25 carries already. So I'm like, for real? But not even understanding the magnitude of it, even at that point. I'm like, oh, yeah, for real? I was more so concerned about the score, because at that time, Missouri was beating us 21-20. So my mind was more on the score. I want to win this game for the team to become considered a winner. And we came out the second half. As we got rolling, we was known for running the toss sweep. And that's toss sweep right, toss sweep left. schools would come up to our coaching clinics and learn how to run the toss sweep. So we was running it, and it started going. So now we had 300 yards. So Coach Jefferson said, you back close to a Big 8 record. I said, for real? He said, yeah. So then at this time, Coach Mason calls a timeout. He brings everybody up, defense, offense. He say, listen, we can do something special here. Tony's close to getting the Big 8 record. And that's all at that time we was worried about, because they hadn't even realized what the NCAA record was. Marshall Faulk had said it the first game of the season at 385. So he said, if we get 325, Tony gives us a chance to break the Big 8 record. So all the teams say, hey, listen, let's go. They got excited. But then I turned to my running backs, because I always wanted to make sure that these guys get an opportunity to play, because they practice all week and they needed an opportunity. So I told them, I said, guys, listen, we on it. What do you guys think? And the first thing the guy said, he said, listen, we don't even want to go in. Finish the job. We go in, we get the Big 8 record that comes up on the Jumbotron. Then they realize we're not that far from the national record. And they say, you want to go for it? I said, yeah, let's go for it. And we went for it. We got the record, 396. Coach Mason calls a timeout, takes me off the field. Now, mind you, this 396. Not knowing, he said they're gonna kill me when I get in the press conference. They're gonna rip me up for doing this. When we go in the press conference, the first question that was asked of him, why didn't you let him get 400 yards?
And that's what I'm thinking. You're only 4 yards away.
Right.
You're just 4 yards away.
Right.
He said, why didn't you let him get 400 yards? And he was like, man, he said, listen, I can't win for losing. It was I was emotional because it was exciting. I got an opportunity. Now, mind you, as I said, my family was up there, but my family was not used to being in the cold outdoor in a stadium. My wife had packed up the kids. Hey, we out of here. This before the record was being set now. She hears on the radio in the car. She said, well, I'll turn it on the car and listen to it in the car on the way home. Well, she hears now that, hey, he's on his way to an NCAA record. So now she has to turn back and try to get back into the stadium, but they made it easier for her to get back into the stadium so my boys can have an opportunity to see that. So listen, to say
that's amazing.
Well, you can say now, and a lot of people ask me about it, which one meant more to you? The one that meant durability for a guy like me, I was 5'6". At that game, I was 5'6", 165 pounds.
Wow.
In the Big 8. And that, the carries meant more to me because I was able to show my durability.
Yeah.
Yes.
Didn't fumble once. Was able to carry the ball, became the Big 8 player of the year, was 7th in the Heisman that year. And I always tell myself, I said, if I was at some other school, I guarantee you I would have been in New York that day. It was hard for a lot of people to realize that the University of Kansas was starting to make strides. And the next year, they wind up going to Hawaii to the bowl game. That was the first bowl game they had been to in over 15 years.
Yeah, because Kansas was a basketball school. They weren't known for football
at all. I mean, we've had some great ones to come out of there before that, but a lot of people, Gail Sayers, John Riggins, we've had some great ones, but we were more known for basketball. I always said I was probably one of the few football players on campus that had basketball status. When you say you got basketball status, that meant a lot at the University of Kansas. But I mean, the experience, I wouldn't change it. And for the world, the opportunity I wanted coming out of Florida, I wanted to go to Florida State. Florida State was my dream.
Tony, I don't want to cut, but I know Michael's got to go. So, Michael, let you get your questions in before you have to get away.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you, Thom. Tony, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
You have just 3 pages worth of accolades and what have you. So
Yes.
I'm not going to try to highlight all of those, but there's a couple things that I'd like to ask you that I think is pretty interesting. You list as part of your credentials, performance enhancement specialist.
Yes.
Can you expound on that? And I have one more that's pretty interesting. I know that doesn't mean PEDs.
No.
Just for everybody out there, I'd like for you to expound on what that means.
Performance enhancement specialist. That means you're an expert in what you do. You're taking athletes and you're developing them. And we've moved away from some of the other words as trainers. Now we're getting more into what I would call the professional titles that goes with who you are. When people hear PEDs, they think of some of our athletes along the way that have used those to enhance but no, we're mainly because we're in a technology age now. Athletes are being trained now through vision, virtual. I take some of my athletes and I put them in the virtual world to train them. I'm one of the only trainers here in South Florida that does that. So when you put the word special, because we never get those titles, understand, you very rarely hear in our profession or in a lot of professions where we are minorities, we don't get the chance. We don't very rarely hear the word expert. It takes us some time to get to those titles. So when this title was specialist was added to me, I took it. I loved it because, as they say, I was one of the originals. I was one of the godfathers. I started the training business when training wasn't glamorous. Back in the 90s, we didn't have the social media that we have now, to where now you can elevate your training. I had to grind it from the ground up. So a lot of people call me the guru. They call me the godfather of the training industry and the specialist. So yeah, that's what that means. It doesn't mean the PEDs at all.
Okay. I figured that. The other one that I found pretty interesting, and you've trained a lot of people.
Yes.
But one that stuck out was Santia Beck, the first female to compete in the NFL Combine. What was it like training her? And was that, when you trained her, did you put a specific program based on the fact that she was a female and was going to be competing with men? How did you train her?
No, not at all. Not at all. I wanted, she called me, she hit me up on Instagram, as a matter of fact, and said, I'm coming to South Florida and I want to train with you. I'm getting ready for the NFL Combine and I want to train with you. I said, okay. I said, understand this now. You coming to work. This ain't cause you big on social media. You're coming to work. You're just like any other the athletes that I've had, the Lamar Jacksons, the Michael Irvin. You're just one of them. We're not changing the style. She said, that's what I want. Those are the words that I wanted to hear. So training her, no, we didn't change it. She was hardworking, wanted to be successful, wanted to change the landscape of how female athletes are looked at. She wanted to train the same way. So I trained her tough. She came in, she loved it. We worked hard. She's out of the Atlanta area. She's huge in Atlanta. I stay, as a matter of fact, she's the first female now to have her own shoe company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she has her own shoe company. And so it's big. I just did a big old promo for her here in South Florida, to where we brought in over 100 athletes to let them see what her shoes like. So yeah, she's a great friend of mine and she loves to work. She's a hard worker. One of the first females to sign a multi-million-dollar deal to play football overseas. So yeah, she wanted to train just like the guys.
That's
What position does she play?
She plays running back.
Okay.
Wow.
So she came to a specialist in that field also.
I love
There
it.
you go. Dr. Tony.
Yes. Yes.
Good deal. That is great.
Yes.
Okay. Barbara, you got some questions?
I do. Tony, you're the executive director of coaching at D1 Training. So tell our viewers a little bit about D1.
I was originally the executive director because I went back now into my own business.
Okay.
Yes, I've moved now into my own business of training specialist because I wanted to do some different things, and that fed into it. Like I said, I've been in this industry since 1993, 94 after I finished playing professional football. I moved back to. I was in Kansas as a coach, and when I was coaching at the University of Kansas, I found out, hey, I could take this business back to South Florida where there's no one doing it and it will flourish.
Right.
And so I moved back here, and it's been a blessing to be able to say that you've touched so many lives. And not only do you change the athlete's life, but you change everyone around them.
Right.
You change their parents, you change their siblings. So when you look back at that on a Saturday or a Sunday and you're seeing where these guys are going and what's the potential, you got to look at Lamar Jackson, who will possibly be a $500 million man coming up soon. I mean, you think about how many lives that changes.
Right.
And it's big. Like one of my athletes flew back in town a week ago. He's just won the Super Bowl with the Rams. He came back and wanted me to take a picture with the ring because I had him since he was like 8 years old.
Oh,
so
wow.
He wanted to share that part with me and let me see that he's thankful for what I've done. So Brandon Powell, that's with the Rams, he moved back. He was a young guy, small guy, but he was overachiever. And I taught him that, listen, because of your size, that's not going to dictate your altitude. We're going to make sure that your heart and your mind dictates that, not your size.
Awesome.
Okay. Michael, you got time for one more?
Yes, I have one more, and I'll make it quick. Rashad Evans, an MMA fighter.
Yes.
Tell me about training him, because the rest of them were football players and stuff, but now this is an MMA fighter. What was that like?
It was, well, I used to wrestle when I was in high school.
Okay.
So I do have a wrestling background. But when Rashad came to me, he was mainly wanted to come to me because he wanted to get more explosive. He wanted to get in better shape. We didn't train him in his art of MMA. We trained him to be more explosive, to be quicker, and to get in better shape. So I had to take him out and do track workouts with him. We had to change the way he was used to training, and with that one, he was able to win the championship fight because he was in better shape than his opponent.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
We work with a variety of them. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, if Lamar Jackson get this big contract, I see him on your list. His training, he's a hell of an athlete.
He's one of I had him since a kid.
Really? Okay.
Wow.
He put on about 20 pounds of muscle, didn't he? In the
off season. Yes. I had to put on. Listen.
What do you think about him negotiating his own contract?
It's been, a lot of people ask me that question because his mom is his advisor, and a lot of people say, I don't know if that's good, but she's also getting advice from lawyers. A lot of people don't realize a lot of these contracts are already slotted.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I mean,
already slotted. Yeah.
You only got a few areas that you're actually negotiating. The rest of it is pretty standard.
Right.
They're slotted, so you know where you're at. Sometimes a lot of people going in now, the wave of going, they're just getting lawyers to go and negotiate it because it's already slotted. If you're a first round pick from last year, you're the first pick, and you're the first pick to this year.
Right.
It's only gonna move so far. So you can negotiate, and everybody else up under you is slotted. You're not gonna make more than the first pick from last year, and it's just gonna break down. But everything else is pretty much, like I say, it's slotted out. It's not as difficult as it used to be, and things are changing. There's a lot more minorities getting into the agent business. So the game is changing a lot when it comes
quite a few women. I saw where Jalen Hurts has an all female
staff. Yes, he does.
Around him.
Yes, my PR firm. My PR firm she's a lady also. She's out of Atlanta. So she's there. They tend to, as we say, sometimes you got to finagle your way through this, and they tend to understand a little bit more than the men do. They think a little bit, they outthink us. So in order to be able to outthink us, I want to get someone that's going to be able to, I know she has that compassion. She has that drive. So yeah, I mean, it's changing. The landscape of what used to be and what it is now has changed drastically. And it takes me back to when I talked with you early, Thom, and we talked about Auburn, your alma mater, and the thing.
Yes.
Getting ready to get to that. I got two
Yes.
things before we have to go. One is your Auburn story. You said you had an
Yes.
Auburn story
Yes.
for us, and
Yes.
then we need to talk about your book. But go ahead and tell us the Auburn story.
Listen, it was first game of my college career. Now, the year before I got there, they had a problem when they was leaving Auburn. They hit the plane. The bus hit the plane. So they say that was a disaster. You know, your bus hitting your plane. Now you got to wait for another plane to come because that plane can't move. We go to Auburn, Alabama. And, you know, it's my first college game as a college guy. You know, mind you, I had all my son, I had to leave pretty much almost the same day that he was born. So I had to leave and go. So I didn't get a chance to really see my son until him and my wife and my dad and my dad's girlfriend came up to Auburn. They came up to Auburn, and they, you know, I was excited. They came to the hotel. We was talking Keith, as a matter of fact, because Keith Sweat was doing a concert across the street. So he was there in the lobby. My son got a chance as a kid to meet Keith Sweat. So next morning, I'm excited. My family's here in Auburn, Alabama. They coming to see me play.
Right.
We get beat by Auburn, and we get beat pretty good. That was the first time I ever seen a running clock at the college level. Now y'all had Tracy Rocker,
Yes.
Reggie Slack. You know, y'all had y'all were number one school. So we get beat pretty good. That was the first time I said we probably could have got beaten by Auburn 100 and something to nothing. To be honest, yeah, it was a bad experience. As a college kid, you know, I walk out first to walk out into that stadium with those hedges around it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I'm looking like, wow, this is what college football is all about. This is exciting.
Welcome to the SEC.
Yeah. So then I wind up, you know, after the game over, you know, I'm getting dressed real fast because I want to go see my son, my wife now, my dad, his girlfriend. I want to see them. You know, I got to hurry up and get dressed. I get dressed and I go out by the buses. I don't see them nowhere. So I'm looking around. I'm like, man, where are they? I know they, you know, I told them once the game over to come, they was nowhere around.
Yeah.
Well, their experience of leaving the hotel, walking to the stadium wasn't the most pleasant experience to have.
Okay.
And
Really?
Wow. You're talking about in 88.
Okay.
1988.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the words they say they heard on the way walking to the stadium kind of spooked them a little bit because we're from South Florida. So we was, you know, you were used to certain sections that you didn't go in because and some of the words kind of spooked them and they wound up going back to the hotel.
Oh no.
Yeah, they didn't even come to the game. They went back to the hotel. My dad was like,
wow.
You know, and so they went back to the hotel, and that's the experience every time I think of Auburn, and I think I'm like, man, you know, and I didn't find out until technically I got back to school because I'm wondering out on the whole trip.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened to them?
So
Right.
when they told me about it, you know, in my mind I was they were just talking. Then they was like, nah.
Y'all ran into some good old boys.
Yeah, they ran into some good old boys that we were saying. So
we'll apologize for them.
Yes, that's so unfortunate.
And I know, you know, some of the guys, as a matter of fact, some of the guys that I've trained have went on to Auburn. As a matter of fact, Dillard High School had a run of sending guys to Auburn. Otis Mounds, we had Frank. We had a slew of guys that I've trained that went on and went to Auburn. Probably one of my guys that Harry Adams went to Auburn, Alabama. He was a speedster. So yeah, I mean they've made it up, you know. And times have changed, as we say. We're moving into some different times. So, but yeah, that was when I saw it when I went to reading it, and I went to reading how you know, segregated, how you went, and that was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, wow, okay, I know that had to be different. You know, that's something that probably is real a story that is real interesting because our kids nowadays it's hard to tell them that because they are so far removed from them,
which is a good thing. You're right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had that discussion with my son once, and I started telling him about it, and he said, "Oh, Dad, you know that stuff didn't happen," and I just left it alone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Why
So
why spoil his world?
Yeah, they
His
can't even
world's
imagine
totally
it.
different.
yes,
You
because they're
know?
so
Right.
far removed from it. It's hard for them
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
to imagine that really take that something like that really went on and things of that nature.
yeah.
Mhm.
So,
So
yeah, but
tell us
this
about the book.
listen. Oh man, my book. I started writing it at one point, then I backed away from it. But I had a young man that I was training. As a matter of fact, Bryce Gowdy, and he was one of the young men here in South Florida in 2000. Was it 18? To where he was Georgia Tech's #1 recruit.
Wow.
And 48 hours before he was getting ready to go and report to Georgia Tech, he got up about 1 o'clock in the 1 o'clock a.m. and went and walked out in front of a train and killed himself. Uh,
Oh my God.
and it took me back to where some of the experience I had after playing football and some of the things that I went through, I felt at
Mhm.
that time it needed to get out to for it to be heard because some of the
Mhm.
things that he, that the suicide and things of that nature. Because my book deals with suicide and deals with mental health and
Mhm.
deal with overcoming. I felt needed to get out, and athletes needed to hear. Some we went on a huge tour with it all over the country. I was being asked
Oh,
to speak
good.
about it because it was taboo for an athlete to speak about that he was dealing with
Yes.
struggles in his life.
Mhm.
Yes.
And when I
Yes.
came out and spoke about it, a lot of people said I would have never known that. I would have never knew that just looking at you, because a lot of people see
Yes.
the side of people that we put out there for people to see, but they never know
Right.
what's going on the inside. And my struggles after the game was over because I didn't leave the game on my terms. I left the game
Right.
on someone else's terms that I
Right.
that
Right.
that they said about me, and I couldn't understand it. So I spoke about it, put it in a book, and I speak at a lot of conferences in reference to mental health and athletes, because it's a lot of athletes that go through it. They feel we're these big
Right.
guys that we're supposed to be able to handle everything, but we're still
Right.
Supposed to
still
be able to
humans.
Right.
succeed at everything.
Yes.
The first African American athlete at Auburn University was a guy named Henry Harris, who was a basketball player. Henry, as far as we know, committed suicide.
Wow.
And for the longest, um, the people at the university wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't deal with it because it was taboo. And I just had a recent conversation with somebody there who is in the high administrative area. And they basically said, mental health is a big issue on campuses now,
Yes.
Mhm.
especially among athletes. And it's something
Yes.
that they're trying to deal with head on. Um, and so I'm glad for that. I appreciate you doing that. And, I never would have thought that this guy would have committed suicide because he was, he was 6'3", 6'4". He was 200 and some pounds. And he gave the impression that everything was always all right with him.
Yes.
Mhm.
He could handle it, whatever it was. And this guy wrote a book about it. And once you read the book, you saw a
Yes.
different side, a
Right.
man who there were circumstances beyond his control.
Yes.
In other words, he couldn't control them anymore,
Correct.
and he couldn't play anymore. And you mentioned that,
Yes.
and I had the same thing. I got cut right at the end with the Bills, and but I was for some reason it was like, okay, that's it, and I'm gonna go do something else now.
Right.
And I had a TV job before I went back to. I got drafted by New England. I never did go. I went to the World League, skipped a year, and then I went back to Buffalo. And so I had some other experience
Mhm.
because if it's where you're hanging your hat,
Yeah.
and that's the
Yes.
only place you're hanging your hat, it can leave you devastated.
Yes.
You know.
Mhm.
we speak about a plan B. You know,
Mhm.
as athletes, you hear us say, okay, listen, we got a plan B when it's over. But no one wants to tackle that plan B because
Right.
that plan A
That's right.
is where you put everything
Everything in.
That's right.
in.
That's
And
Mhm.
right.
plan B, you hope, really, you know you're going to have to touch it at some point. But in
Right.
reality, I don't want to have to mess with that
That's
because
Right.
now my plan A, the way it happens, may be considered a failure.
that's
Right.
right.
You
Right.
know,
That's
so
right.
that's why, you know, I looked at it and I say, I gotta get this out because it was something that I was holding in
Right.
Yeah.
for a long time.
And Tony, you're smart to have a plan B. Some of these athletes don't even
Yes.
have a plan B. They don't want to
Yes.
think about it. They
Right.
have only plan A and praying that that's going to work. They know it's going to work.
Yes.
And so if it fails, then they are lost.
Yes.
Those are
And
the
I
ones
see it a
who
lot.
really fall into trouble.
It's better now because some of the, the schools at that time, especially in
Yes.
my era,
Mhm.
weren't preparing the young men for life.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And most of the young men I didn't graduate.
Correct.
Mhm.
And so they would just be out there in the world. And you and I both know that once it's over, it's over.
That's
And they loved you, but I
yes.
love this guy over here now.
Right.
And that's, as athletes, you're so used to when you walk in a stadium, you got over 100,000 people calling your name. Either they love you or they love to hate you. Either way, you are getting the roar of the crowd, and then
Right.
all of a sudden,
That's right.
that fuse
Go.
is turned off.
Let's go.
Mhm.
What happens? Because now your self-esteem is up here.
Right.
Everybody want to be
Mhm.
around you. Everything is going. Now all of a sudden, you don't dictate anything. You don't control it. Our lives, and I think that's where sometimes colleges are trying to get better now. Our life have been dictated ever
Yeah.
since we were 6 years old. And you
Right.
started this game. You knew at this time of the year you play football, you do this, you do everything is structured out. We even on campus, you
That's
never
right.
even had to go up on campus to the unions to get your schedule. It was already given
That's
to you.
right.
Mhm.
You never
That's right.
you
That's
never
right.
you never lived the normal life of
That's
a
right.
college.
Of a college student.
So
That's
now
right.
Yeah.
once you're done, now you got to figure out how to navigate to go get your own schedule. Well, you
That's
guys
right.
didn't diffuse. There's no diffusing process.
You've got
Where
to.
now we're gonna start
That's right.
transitioning you back into normal living.
That's right.
And that's when I went back to the University of Kansas to start coaching, I started a program like that there. To where I
That's right.
started because I
Good.
saw where I didn't have it. So I started a program there to start diffusing athletes to let them understand that hey, listen, it's time to start
Hey,
transition.
this is the reaction.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. You mean I got to buy my own socks?
Yes.
Because you're
Right.
always giving athletic
Yes.
socks.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Man, I
Right.
ain't buying no socks. Are you crazy?
I sell
I got to buy my own jockey.
everything.
Yeah.
You got to know how to eat. There's no
Yeah.
more food
Right.
being cooked for you at the training tables.
That's right.
Right.
Now you got
That's
to know how
right.
to budget your money
That's right.
Right.
because there was no budget. I
That's
ate all I
right.
want. Go back to the
That's
training
right.
table 3-4 times a day if I wanted to.
That's right.
And
Mhm.
I'm saying it now, even though athletes we were talking about, I'm seeing it now a lot, even with athletes that have college degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing the struggles of what do I do with this? Okay, y'all told me I get this, I
Right.
get this, but what do I do with it? And
Mm-hmm.
that's that transition of not understanding your purpose in life.
That's right.
And that's
That's
what
right.
a lot of them are
And
having.
what you want to do. I
Yes.
know, and Barbara, I'm an actor, and so
Mhm.
we just did a play last week, and Sean was there.
Right.
But one of the things that I say in the play is about my life is I wanted to make a difference,
Yes.
Mhm.
and in wanting to make a difference, that gives you some type of purpose
Right.
as to what you're going to do, and you're not wandering in the wilderness, so to speak,
Yes.
as they say in the Bible.
Right.
And so I think it's great. I think it's great what you're doing. It can't do anything but help
Yes.
a lot of athletes, because if you think about it, and athletes and I say actors are very similar in that everything is planned for you.
Correct.
Everything is planned for you. You don't have, when you wake up in the morning, your day is planned, you know, and you know what time you got classes. And you're absolutely right.
Yes.
Our schedule, we would just have to go over and pick up our schedule. It was it was done, you know.
Right.
And
Classes picked for you. This is
that's
what you're going to do.
Right.
We didn't even, to a point, you didn't even dictate what classes go on your schedule. You just got what they gave you.
That's
And
right.
you knew, okay, I want this degree, all right, but this is what we're going to do. Instead of looking in the book and saying, oh, I'd like to take this class. No,
Well,
that wasn't given to us.
I did that, and I was the athlete, the academic coach didn't particularly care for that, because he said, well, let me do your schedule. I said, no, sir, I talked to my advisor, and he told me what to take. And so he didn't like that at all. But you know, my dad said I was going to graduate before I ever went. And so I didn't have a choice.
And I was blessed, like I said, with the University of Kansas. Because I made it my business when I was playing and I was at my top of my game. I wanted to be around people that was important, because they wanted to be around you because you was important. So when this thing, when football ended for me, the same people that the president of the university, me and him became best friends. It's very rare that an athlete becomes best friends with the president at a major university. Chancellor Gene Budick I ate lunch with this guy. I made it my business when I started playing. We had lunch every Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
Every Tuesday. It was playing schedule. This is what you do. And when I finished playing and he saw me get released by the Arizona Cardinals, the first thing he called me that next day, he said, listen, now the University of Kansas owe you to make sure that you get a degree. Brought me and my family back up, set me down with all my academic people, with the coaches, the athletic director. Listen, we owe it to this young man. All what he's done for the University of Kansas, we owe it to him. I want everybody in place to make sure that he get his college degree. That's all I want. Listen, I'm telling you, as the president of this university, that's what's got to take place. So, you know, I got the key. I was given the key to the city. And now when I look at it, that's why when I talk about changing athletes' life and their mental health, me with my outreach, you know, I have a nonprofit, which is called Sensational Community Outreach, to where now we're into the grant phase of trying to get grant money in order to help athletes cope with their mental health. So it's a journey that's never ending. And like I say, I speak a lot about it in my book.
Good for you, man.
Yes.
What's the name of it?
My book is I Was Before My Time.
Okay.
It speaks about my journey and my struggles of overcoming my size and trying to be successful. And if I look at it now, I wouldn't have to fight the size, because there's a lot of small the game is geared now for smaller backs than it was back then. So
it is. You're right. Absolutely. Well, that was a time called too early.
Yes.
That's what I said.
You had to be
we came along too early.
Yes. So it's been a journey. Like I say, my life has been, I wouldn't change it for the world, for the people that I've been able to meet and the people that I've been able to touch.
That's great.
I've lived a great life. In my path, I wouldn't have changed it for nothing, because it will. If I decided that I did want to change it, it will affect the outcome of where I'm at now. And I love the outcome where I'm at now.
Well,
that's great.
I appreciate that. And I feel the same way. And I think when you've been through things, you know, it gives you I don't know what the word is, but it allows you to speak to things that others may not be able to speak to, or that some people may take offense with. You're not meaning any offense. You're just saying, this is what my life has been like. And this is where my life is. Man, I surely appreciate you being on with us this morning. It's great. We're about 10 minutes over, but that's all right. So, it's so wonderful.
My pleasure.
And hopefully our paths will cross again.
Yeah, they will. I was telling Chantia, I would like to call you and speak with you in
Sure.
reference to some things.
That'd be great.
Some of the things that I'm doing and some of
That'd
the
be
things that I
awesome.
would like to speak with you about.
You
Hey,
know,
Tony, one of our viewers said, please come back to Auburn and share your book at J&M Bookstore. She said she prayed
Sure.
Auburn can redeem itself from this
Tell her,
past.
listen, I would love to come to Auburn to have, to sit there and have my mind renewed that this is not how
yeah,
everything in
Right.
Auburn is. So
yeah,
tell them I would love to. They can go to Amazon also to get my book. It's on Amazon. And
Right.
like I said, I would love to tell that guest I would love to come to Auburn to have my book in their bookstore. So
And
yes.
tell us the name of your book again.
I Was Before My Time.
By Tony Sands.
Tony Sands. Yes,
Tony
my dad.
Sands.
Amazon.
I dedicated the book to my father, who
Oh,
died in
awesome.
2017.
Okay.
And the quote on the back of the book is probably one of the best quotes that I always tell kids. It says, "My dad gave me the greatest gift a father could give a son. He believed it. That is the greatest gift that a father could give a son, is to believe in him. That gives him."
And I came along in that rough integration experience.
Yes.
And my dad told me, he said, you're just passing through.
Yes.
And I've never forgotten that.
Yes. And it's, guys, my hat goes off to you because, and I thank you for what you've done for guys like myself. The journey that you had to take for a guy like myself to be able to, experience what I experienced at the college football. And I thank you. I thank you for that. And sometimes,
I appreciate it.
Sometimes we don't get a chance to do that often. And like I said, I thank you for that.
All right. Okay, man. Well, we got to get going. Thank you so much. We'll be back in touch.
Yes, most definitely.
Appreciate you.
I'll be calling you. You guys later.
Bye, Tony.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you could have let the clapping go on. That was wonderful. So my closing commentary for today, or as I see it, is it's almost over. Thank goodness. The divisiveness, the racism reminds me a lot of growing up in Alabama under George Wallace. Divide and conquer was Wallace's mantra. He figured out racism was his ticket to getting elected, but even he had the courage to change. Funny how this many years later, some of today's politicians have discovered that it still works. Take ignorance on the part of the electorate, mix in some division, throw a lot of money at it, and people can be led down the path of disagreement and divisiveness. In today's politics, politicians can be openly racist and then say, oh, that had nothing to do with race. Bullshit. Mix that in with different views, news outlets favoring certain political sides, and there it creates a lot of anguish. In speaking with some students last week, I urged them to be able to disagree without being disagreeable. Maybe there's hope for that younger generation. The people running today and some of those already in office offer us little hope of moving beyond yesteryear. And that is how I see it on this November 1st in the year 2022. That's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank Michael and Barbara. Thank our G-list guest, Tony Sands. And thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thank Emily Hedrick, the communicator, Sean Jones, the organizer and producer of the show, and the producer of Got a Minute. Remember to enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.